Hello and welcome to Itsy Bitsy. I'm your host, Sienna Macaroni, and today I am joined by children's book illustrator Shiho Pate. Hi, Shiho.
Hello. Thank you for inviting me.
Of course, thank you so much for being here. So, before we get into all the cool work you do as a grown up, I wanted to ask you what you were like as a kid.
Yeah, as a very young kid, I was kind of the crazy one in the group. I remember my mom telling me that she had to go to the park before me after it rained and cover all the puddles because I will be the first one to dive into that. So I was known for that kid to be like, okay, that kid is coming, like brace yourselves. But once school started, I think I toned down a bit. I was always doodling in class. I love art, love PE, love science. So I was that kind of kid and I moved a lot. I lived in UK for 3 years, came back, and I grew up in Japan. So
Oh, wow.
yeah, I kind of always felt like an outsider and then moved to US when I was in high school. So yeah.
That's really fascinating. That sounds like a really cool childhood. I really relate. I feel like I was something of a menace when I was a little kid. And then sometimes I feel like I got all of that out because as an adult, I don't feel like I'm rebellious at all.
Either.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Can you introduce, for anyone who doesn't know, the work that you do now as a grown up?
Yeah, so I am a children's book illustrator at this moment. I'm trying to be an author illustrator. I'm submitting my own work, author illustrator work with my agent. Getting a lot of rejections, but not giving up. And yeah, I used to do a lot more freelance game art stuff, but not much nowadays. Yeah.
For anyone who's not familiar, would you mind explaining how it works to illustrate children's books? Like, I know you work with your agent and a writer and a publisher. Can you just explain that process?
Absolutely. So yes, I am agented, and what the agent does is kind of represent me as an illustrator, an author illustrator. My agent is the one that's talking to the editors, either like promoting my latest illustration or submitting my dummy books. So that's really nice. I even got to pair up with an in-house author to create. Do I have that book? Yes, I do.
Oh my
This
gosh.
one, Gigi and Pepe. Oh, it's
Oh,
backwards.
cool.
So yeah, that was really a fun collaboration. So that's what I do. And then once I get the job, I start illustrating. I don't really talk to the authors much. So yeah, I'm mainly communicating and creating with my editor and my art director. Sometimes there's a book designer that comes in. Sometimes there's the marketing team that, relays information and kind of like explaining what the marketing plan is for the book. I illustrate, and then a year later the book comes out.
So cool. Is it the same process, even with different types of books?
It's definitely a similar process. I don't really have much knowledge in middle grade and YA, but also like different house like publisher sizes I think matter. I worked with, big ones like Simon Schuster, Scholastic, and then more indie publishers like Red Comet Press. And I like them both. I think the Red Comet Press in particular is more hands on. And I really love that kind of like collaboration and, especially the art director really gets my vision and lets me like go wild at first and then reel it in. So that kind of trust is nice because I've done 3 books with them. It's the Rescues, the series, and I think that's the beauty of doing multiple books in a series because then you get to know what the editors and the art directors are expecting of me. So the next book is almost like easier. It's like, oh, I know what they're gonna say, so let me already address that. Or like, I know they like this humor, so let's try to make that work. So yeah.
Gotcha. So you're sending them like early sketches and they're being like, oh, we think this character should look more like this or stuff like that.
Yeah, with animated science series like right here. the character definitely came first. So I will get a description of an element or a rock. Then I have to imagine what the personalities might be like, who, obviously like what kind of color, shapes, that kind of like technical science facts are very important. So that definitely came first. But if it's more like a picture book, like Ramen for Everyone, it's more about figuring out what the story's meaning is, like in particular, like Ramen for Everyone is about family and making food together and caring about, what everybody likes, and like try to personalize it and not be just a traditional ramen. So I think about that first, in the story first, and then the character comes later.
Yeah, I was kind of curious because you've illustrated several books that are like more science based, and you had to imagine what like a science concept would look like as a figure. I just wondered how I don't know, how you approached that.
Yeah, it was definitely fun and challenging. But I think I do that anyways in a way. Like I like to just imagine, what if a pencil moved, and what is a red color pencil do versus a blue color pencil? I naturally had that kind of like imagination. So maybe that's how I got hired. I think also the working in games first kind of helped with that, because there's a lot of character design and animation you have to do, and most of them is just like kind of like Kirby. Like you don't know what a Kirby is, but like you just have to imagine and make up personalities, right? So I got to do that kind of stuff for game pitches, and it was kind of like naturally already there. So yeah, when I got that book, I was like, oh, I can imagine personalities of a rock. Yeah, totally. So
So you feel like your history working in indie game illustration that kind of lent itself to the illustration work that you're doing now?
yeah, I think so. And, the benefit of working in game studio is that you get to meet different, artists, game designers, and engineers, and producers. And I think that was like influencing me even. I didn't have much of a game knowledge when I went in, but like because of that, like I got to learn about, how our game character is made, what they're making for their games versus ours. So I think that also helped a lot, and I kind of miss that environment.
Mm. Have you noticed, just out of curiosity, is that market like on the decline?
I don't think indie game itself is declining, but I know the game industry right now is a little tough. There's a lot of shakeup in bigger game companies, so that trickles down to indie game companies as well. But the good thing is, like when those kind of shakeup happens, a lot of new indie game studio pop up. So, yeah, we'll see what happens in in a few years.
And you were making mostly mobile, like animated games.
Yeah, but there was different genres, right? Like there's a hidden object game, there's a card game. I did puzzle games. There's turn-based action games, like lots of different genres. It was
Wow.
fun.
So I know you've made several different types of books, like Ramen for Everyone was a picture book, animated science. Would you say that's like a comic series?
It's been labeled as comic. It does have comic elements. I don't know. I always feel kind of bad for calling it a comic compared to like, graphic novels, which is like, tons of times on that.
Right. And then would you say Chi and Pepe is sort of graphic or more like early reader type?
Yeah, early reader graphic novel. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Of those different types, do you have a particular type of book that you really like working on?
It's hard to say. Like, I love them all because I love challenges. I get scared when I start them because it's new. And honestly, I didn't have any graphic novel illustrations in the portfolio, but I was like, oh, I have to do this. So I try. I think I'm good at like making it fun and making it work for me. I do have a soft spot for picture books though, because I just love reading them and analyzing and dissecting it, because it's something that my mom, my sister, and I read tons of books growing up, especially when I was in like UK, because I just wanted to have a comfort spot, especially when I didn't know English. And, picture book really helped me to be like, okay, this is something familiar. When I turn the page, nothing surprising is going to happen. So I like that comfort. So since then, I love reading and making picture books. But
Gotcha.
I like my career surprised me. It's like, oh, and science book, yes, graphic novels, yes. So yeah, it's been fun.
Yeah, I bet it is fun. It's like a new creative challenge every time. What would you say is your illustration process? Are you starting on paper and then transitioning to digital at a certain point?
Great question. So I can show you some of it. I always start with little index cards,
Oh,
and I
wow.
literally like fold it in half so I know where the center is, like, or the spine of the book is. I try to keep it loosely in that book size, and I start drawing, and this is my thumbnail sketches. It's just very, very like loose sketches, like circles and like, yeah. So that's the beginning, and I have like a stack of them. It's way more than, 32 pages, because I have like multiple versions of a spread, and I do it on the index card so I can lay them all out, and then I can see all of the layout on a desk, and I can see what's working, what's not working, flow wise and composition wise. So once that's done, I go straight into Photoshop. So I'll do all the sketches in Photoshop, from loose to very tight sketch. Even color studies, I will do that in Photoshop, just because it's just like easy to edit things. I do a lot of like head and then body, and realize like my head is like way bigger than it should be, and it's just so much
Yep.
easier to edit it digitally than on a paper.
Yeah, totally feel that.
Right? We always have that.
Yeah, I love the idea of sketching on paper, and I normally start there, but then, like you said, if you realize an arm is too long or something, on paper you have to erase the whole thing, redraw it. It is so much easier to just like select and reduce the size or shift things over.
Yeah.
But I've never drawn in Photoshop. I use Procreate. How do you do that? Do you have like a Wacom tablet?
No, I have Surface Pro, and you can just draw it on a screen, and that's been the best discovery because I went through that Wacom tablet and drawing on the side. I loved seeing the bigger screen, but I always like to move around and I travel often, so this laptop that I can draw on the screen was like a good middle ground.
That's really smart. I have tried the Wacom tablet before, but I feel like the disconnect of the hand to what you're seeing was a little hard for me to wrap my brain around.
Yeah, yeah. And then there's nothing wrong with like sketching traditionally. That's the thing in the next process. Like once the sketches are done and approved by the editors, I go into, creating the final
Oh
illustrations.
my gosh.
Yeah, this is the sketches for the book I'm submitting. And then that girl, for example, I just do the line version of it.
That's so cool.
You can notice like how many times I tried and I was like, I don't like this line. And the benefit of traditional medium is that you can see the mistakes and like try to get it right by looking at those mistakes. And I have the highlights and the shadows and all that. So yeah.
That's so cool. Yeah, I was gonna say this is the benefit of having a video element to the podcast and a motivation for anyone listening to watch and check that out.
Yeah, I should be more descriptive. So it's basically like I use 2B pencil and draw over the digital sketches with a light box. And then once that's for the line work. Sometimes I'm very heavy with the light work. Like this one in particular, it's a little more basic. Like I do the highlights, shadows, that's it. And then I also have this one, which is done in
Oh,
Sumi ink, and these are just to get the shapes. And the benefit of this is like it's really tiny, but like you see these like scratch marks, like it's on the edges of the shapes of the
yeah.
girl or the hair. And you can never get this like look digitally, and I really like it. So that shape, it's all done in Sumi ink, so it's like black ink, so I can focus on the overall shape and scan that in, both of them in, and then
That's so
assemble
cool.
in Photoshop. So yeah, and color in Photoshop.
Yeah, I've heard you say before, like when I was preparing for our conversation today, I like read another interview that you did where you had said that you use Sumi ink, and I was confused because I know that's such a stark black. But so you scan that in for the texture and then you change the color digitally.
Texture and the shapes, yeah. So that's again, I'm focusing on the overall shape, and sometimes I use that scratchy texture for highlights, for shadows. I purposely try not to like have too much ink at the bottom of the sleeve, for example, so the light can come in. So when you scan it in and color it, like I can have different colors underneath, or yeah. There's a lot of
Wow.
a lot of things I do. I don't recommend it because it's time consuming.
That's really cool though. So you're starting traditionally, moving to Photoshop, printing it out, going back to traditional, and then you're finishing digitally.
Yep.
That's so cool. And I totally relate to the amount of work that is because I work on paper too. But I feel like in this era of AI, we need that human touch, and I think it totally adds a texture to your books that you wouldn't be able to get with just Photoshop. So it's worth it.
Yeah.
Keep doing it. So you said you do the Sumi ink, you scan that in, you change the color, and it sounds like you're layering that behind your line work.
Yes, the Sumi ink stuff goes behind. I'm trying a new thing and trying to do more watercolor in my work. So this is the
Hmm.
background that I
Oh,
created,
wow.
and this is the, so if you look at this sketch, it's so rough sketch. I have all these elements on the wall, but notice that I
Hmm.
don't have anything here, right?
Hmm.
So I'm trying this new thing where I draw it on a separate paper, and again,
Hmm.
scan that in and assemble it in Photoshop. And after all of that, I adjust the lighting. I do a little bit of Photoshop, like drawing on the illustration itself to kind of make sure everything looks cohesive. And yeah.
Yeah. That's really similar to what I do. Like if I'm doing, I kind of make background figures and then like objects, like the picture frames that you just showed. I would do all of that just in collage instead of painted and then scan them in and assemble it. So very similar. So I know you've worked on a couple of different stories too. You have, nonfiction, science stuff, and you have fiction stories. Is there a particular kind of story that you're really drawn to?
I think if I can see the heart and the care for that story, and not to get too technical, but if the author has space for the illustrators to expand on the story, I think I'm very drawn to it. Ramen for Everyone is a good example of like, or Baby Step is also a good example of just simple text and trusting the illustrator that they can add layer visually to that story, because like Baby Step is like very simple story, but I got to kind of create what the relationship with a bigger brother and a younger sister might be, and where the setting is, and how they bond together, and that emotional arc is something that I had to figure out, and that was really lovely. So that's the stories I'm drawn to, and somewhat like humor. Yeah.
That's awesome. So I know you mentioned that you're hoping to author illustrate some books. I was gonna ask you if you have like a dream project. Like I would love to make a book about this.
I think my goal is always make books that, last generations. Like that person likes it so much that they want to read to their kids or their niece and nephews, give it to their friend. If that goal is met, then I'll be really happy. Yeah, I always strive for that. And I tend to make stories from personal life. So all of the books I've written and illustrated is like very personal. So I think it's always going to be that. It's coming from my heart and it's very authentic.
What would you say are your like biggest influences artistically? Like, who are your favorite children's book illustrators, or if there's other things that inspire your work?
Great question. I have the perfect answer because I have lots of postcards. So I'm just going to start pulling things off of my wall. So I grew up in Japan, so I obviously read a lot of picture books by Japanese authors and illustrators. So if you're Japanese, you know this illustrator. Her name is Akiko Hayashi, and her illustration is so gorgeous, very like always warm, always have an immaculate eye for young kids. And she captures all of the like subtle emotions that kids have. And it's always from one step, away from the camera. Like you can tell that, like, you're stepping a little bit away and then letting the kids really have fun. So I really admired her style and her perspective. This is another popular book. I should know how to say his name, but it's a European author illustrator. He's a legend. And this book in particular, The Three Robbers, is classic, still sold. And I just love the tone of this book in particular. This author illustrators always has this kind of like not dark humor, but like dark, mysterious character design and the storytelling. And I really gravitate towards that kind of more I don't even want to call it edgy style. And I hope I get there. Like I'm not there. I'm not confident enough. But this is my goal. Yeah, so those are my influences. And then when I lived in UK, I was obsessed with Peter Rabbit. I do have Peter Rabbit here. Whoops. And again, I tend to like focus on Peter Rabbit's like mischievous self, always up to no good. And I love that. And I also appreciated mom being always stressed for Peter Rabbit. So I appreciate it from both sides now.
It's so cool.
But you can see, like, I love all of the books, like, from Japan and from here in Europe. I try to, read all kinds of books from around the world.
Yeah, I'm jealous of your library. That looks amazing. Have you noticed any distinctions between like Japanese, US, and UK books in your experience growing up? Like in terms of tone or sense of humor or things like that people just might not know.
So I've shared this before, and I hope it's not shocking. But in Japan, having, naked butts and stuff is very common, like, and not in a sexual way. I promise it's not sexual. But like, we have sumo, and there's picture books about sumo, and one of the spread is just like butts on the like just butts, and it's amazing, and kids love that. There's also I think it's now a movie even. It's called the Butt Detector or something. And the whole character, the face is just a butt with eyes and like a hair. And it's so popular. So that's the biggest difference. And we have like, I think it's because like we're not as tied to religious things as American culture is, right? And then we have things like onsen and public bath where you get fully naked and going to bath. And that I did that since I was a kid. It's very common in Japan. So like, naked body is nothing sexualized. So and seeing it in children's book is very common. And with UK books, I think the humor is a little different. Like if you think about Quentin Blake and Roald Dahl, their humor is a little more not out there, but like little more, what's the right word to say it? It's more aggressive than American ones, and it might be of the era, but I think I still see that in UK books nowadays. I'm not a expert on that as much because I only went there twice in recent years, but I think the tone and even the character design feels a little more edgy.
That's so fascinating. It sounds like we need more butts. We need more butts in American books. That definitely is a taboo here. I mean, if you like in historically, like if a book did have a naked kid in it, it was such a big deal, and the editor had to really push for it, and it received a lot of pushback, and even today there's stigma around that.
Yeah.
Do you also collect toys, Shiho?
Yes, I do. Yes, you can kind of see snippets of here, but I can show you. Well, can I show the other side? Probably not because it's probably going to ruin the setup. But it like if I look up, it's a bunch of like toys.
Wow.
I can maybe pull down stuff like
Sure, that'd be cool.
like this kind of figures.
Oh my god. Is that Godzilla?
It's like Godzilla, but like a cat and like a yokai cat because it has two tails, and I'm really into to yokai, so it's a cat. And then the funny thing is that my daughter started making, toys for me. So this is our dog.
Oh.
It's so cute. Like she sleeps like this, exactly like this, and she's so
Oh.
talented. She's like beyond more talented than I could ever be. So that's the fun thing that as I keep adding her work on top of what I have already.
That's so
So
cool.
yeah.
So when you do you collect them like on your travels or
Yeah, I especially when I go to Japan, there's this one road in Nakano called Nakano Broadway. All the, toy collectors knows it's like a famous gigantic alley of just toys of different eras. All the mangas, all the like nerdy stuff that you can think of is there. So I go there to shop. I looked at online to shop, but like I just need to see it in person, like feel it and stuff. Unless it's like,
Mhm.
like this, like Snoopy. And I'm like, okay, I have
Oh.
to have that. So I'm really into like the dog behaving version of Snoopy. So
Oh.
I love it. I can talk about toys like all the time.
Yeah, I'm here for it. Like I want to just go deep on toys. I don't know anything about toys. I feel like your work to me seems like it is sort of inspired by toys because you have so many little characters, like personified rocks and stuff like that. I feel like a lot of them would make great toys.
Oh, that would be epic if I ever got to do a toy based on my book. That would be amazing. Yeah, I think that there's definitely an influence there. Like this. This is probably like really, oh, it's
Oh
dusty.
wow.
It's Kiki from, Kiki's Delivery Service. Like that's very similar to my characters.
Yeah.
So
Yep, that's
yeah, I think
exactly it.
that there's definitely an influence there.
So I have just a few more questions, and for my last questions, I thought it would be fun to theme them around some of your books. So my first one is the first book in your comic series, Animated Science, explores the periodic table. Which element do you think best represents you?
Great question. I think it'll be gold because the
Ooh.
gold character, yeah, it looks like this, and for the listeners, it's a yellow golden nugget with I guess it's a cowboy hat riding on a donkey. But like, I really relate to this. Like, so gold is like shiny as soon as it come out of the ground. It doesn't really rust or anything, and it's very like malleable and stretches a lot. It's just like kind of how I want to feel. I'm not always shiny, I'm not always happy, but like I strive to be. And then this like flexible, malleable self, I think is, very similar to me as an artist. Like I don't always want to do one thing, I want to keep exploring different paths as an artist. So, yeah, that's my answer.
I love that. That's an amazing answer. Oh my gosh. Did you know about the periodic table before you made this book? Because I don't know anything about elements. That would be totally new to me.
Yeah, no, definitely not. I love science, but not that much. So,
Yeah. Okay, same.
yeah, I learned a lot by making it. I can't say them all yet, but if you say what it is, then, I'll be like, oh, that character.
Gotcha. Yeah, you're in California, right? I went to LA maybe a year ago now, and I visited, is it Griffith Observatory?
Yeah.
Griffin? And do you know they have that like big periodic table or section that has like it lights up and stuff?
No, what?
Oh, there's a
I need to
there's
go.
there's a big section in there that's totally dedicated to the periodic table. And I had never been there before, so I was just wandering around, and there was this museum educator who was like really passionate about science, and no one was really listening to him. So I felt bad, so I started listening to his talk on the periodic table. It was just me and like three other people. He went on for like 45 minutes. And it was turning into like a hostage situation, but I couldn't leave because there were only a few of us. So I'm like listening to this whole talk. And then it's funny, a couple months later, my family and I were on vacation and we were doing trivia at a bar nearby. And we were doing terribly. We were in last place. We were not even close to winning. But then there was a final bonus question where you could bet as many points as you wanted. And it was like five mini questions about the periodic table, and you had to get every single one right in order to get any points. So we were like, whatever, we're in last place, let's bet it all. So we bet it all.
Of course.
And it was a periodic table question, and I remembered what that guy had said.
Yes.
That 45-minute lecture about the periodic table, we got them all right, and we went from last place to second.
Oh my goodness. That's an epic story.
It was. It was a rags to riches comeback story. Yeah, we were just really excited. And I was like, wow, that really came in handy. Anyway, tangent aside, your 2023 picture book, Ramen for Everyone, is about a boy trying to make a bowl of ramen as good as his dad's. What is your go-to ramen order?
So I always get miso ramen because
Hmm.
my mom is from Hokkaido, and Hokkaido is known for miso ramen. So that's what I grew up with. I tend to like noodles that are more wiggly. I don't think that's
Mm,
the right word rather than the straight ones, like more
no, it
yellow
sounds right.
color. So yeah,
Gotcha.
I
Cool.
mainly care about the noodles, like rather than the broth and stuff, which is probably not good. Yeah.
In it for the noodles, yeah, same. And then, correct me if I'm wrong about the timeline, but the latest installment in your series of early chapter books, The Rescues, Three Wishes, is coming out this fall. If you could make three illustration wishes, what would they be?
Thank you so much for the shout out on the
Is
latest
that,
book.
I have that right? It's fall?
Yes.
Okay,
Um,
cool.
the fall date might be flexible, but it's definitely coming out. It's being printed, so that's exciting. Three wishes. Oh my goodness. Illustration wishes. I mean,
Mhm.
I would love to get an author illustrator book out there. That's my number one goal right now. I
Mhm.
would love to collaborate with more authors, like different authors, different tone of the book. I'd love, I would love to work on, you know, more serious books or books with more nature is another one passion of mine. So or really like quirky and oh Halloween books, like I would love to do
Oh,
Halloween books. I keep saying that, and I just need to create more Halloween illustration to convince the editors, I think. But I
that
was born on Halloween day, so I was like it's perfect for me.
Oh my gosh, we're two October babies. I'm October 15th. I have always loved Halloween. Like it is that's my favorite holiday. I love October, so I'm with you there.
Yay, that's awesome. I didn't know you're October baby too. That's
Yep.
awesome.
Yeah,
Yay.
definitely. That's so cool. Okay, thank you so much, Shiho, for your time. I really appreciate you chatting with me today, and I've learned so much from our conversation. Do you have any upcoming projects that you want to plug? I know your book is coming out in the fall.
Yeah, thank you for thank you for having me again. This was really fun. Really, really fun. So I hope you do this with other illustrators and authors. I'm looking forward to it. So I started my newsletter and my
Mhm.
blog. It goes only once a month because that's how much I can handle. So yeah, so I'm starting that. There's books but I can't talk about it. So if you subscribe to the newsletter, I will definitely be talking about it first there when I can. And then, follow me on my socials like Instagram and Blue Sky. It's just my name, Shiho Pate, everywhere. And if you wanted to see the result of the sketches and the illustrations I talked about today, you can go to my website, shihopate.com, to see the final product. So, yeah.
And people can sign up for your newsletter there.
Yes, definitely.
Cool.
Yes. Yeah.
Cool. I'm gonna plug your blog too. When I was preparing for this conversation, I was looking at your website, and you have such a lovely blog. And I feel like we need to bring back the blog in 2025, leave this dystopian social media landscape, and like read more long form posts by creators. So,
That's so lovely. Thank you for reading it. I know my English might not be perfect, so
oh,
if you ever see any bad sentence, let me know. But yeah, oh, I appreciate that so much because sometimes I feel like I'm just writing into a void. So yeah, great. Thank you
yeah,
so
I
much.
get that. But no, I think it's really nice, and people should check it out.
Yay, thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Shiho. I will see you around. And
Thank
thank you,
you.
everyone, for listening to Itsy Bitsy.